Welcome to Not Another CEO podcast. I'm your host, David Politis. Every week, we talk to inspiring leaders and get the true stories, the ups and downs, the lessons learned, and come away with actionable advice for our own journeys. Today's guest has over a decade of experience in the food industry. She was inspired to start her company after surviving cancer in her early 20s. Now, her completely allergen-free products are sold in over 25,000 supermarkets. Actually, in preparation for today's conversation, I ordered some of the frozen chocolate chip cookies from Fresh Direct and tried them last night with my family, and they are literally some of the best cookies I've ever had. Hard to believe they're gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free, nut-free. They're amazing. So anyway, with that, please welcome founder and CEO at Sweet Loren's, Loren Castle.
Hello.
Hey, Loren. Good to have you. Good to have you today. Let's jump right into it. So first question, what's one thing you've done, big or small, that's had the biggest impact at Sweet Loren's and that you would do again if you're CEO of another company in the future?
I think the thing that has had the biggest impact on Sweet Loren's is the quality of the products we've always launched. So I started as a cookie dough brand. It's sold in the refrigerated cookie dough section of supermarkets across the country. And I was am still, but obsessive about the quality and the experience that the customer would get so that they weren't just having an experience that was, oh, this is good. I wanted it to be, exactly what you said, like, wow, one of the best cookies in the world, best thing I've tasted. Just an incredible experience because in the early days, and still even today, we don't spend a lot of marketing. And in the early days, we spent nothing on marketing. And with a really great product that really solved a need, we just built a raving fan base and they did the selling for us. They would tell their friends, they would repeat buy. They became incredibly passionate and became our advocates. So I think the quality of the product has made our brand really stand for something. And honestly, then you don't need to market it. It sells itself.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was telling you before we got going today that actually my wife loved the cookies so much she then went and told our kids' school and probably going to now tell their camp. And so I get that. I want to ask a tactical question, which is when you say the quality, is it of the food? It's like just the cookie dough or of the packaging or, how deep, I guess, are we going when you say quality? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. To be honest, I think quality in every single way. So quality of the product first and foremost, because especially with food, I mean, you're not going to get someone to buy it again unless it's delicious. They had such a great experience. So the consistency and the quality and taste of Sweet Loren's cookie dough really is first and foremost. But then also you think about it, well, we're selling our cookie dough in the refrigerated dough section of supermarkets across the country, whether that's Wegmans, Whole Foods, Publix, Kroger, Stop and Shop, et cetera. And like our package is this big, right? Like it's, you have to scream, your selling points and really stand out against 30,000 other products. So then, in order to even be seen and to drive trial, how do you have really smart packaging? How do you really think about how it stands out compared to, your competition that you're going to be, sitting right next to on the shelf? How do you convey, what your most important selling points are? For us, for Sweet Loren's, it was always about like improved flavor and quality of ingredients. Taste was going to be number one, but then also we're very simple, good ingredients. So it's non-GMO, it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free, peanut, tree nut-free, it's plant-based. So just figuring out the hierarchy of how you design your packaging and the colors you choose so that it pops off shelf and it conveys the message you want. So and then everything counts. What is that experience of that customer bringing it home and opening the package, and what does it look like inside, and then what do the directions say, and how easy is it to make? With Sweet Loren's, we try to make it as easy as possible. So the packaging is, pre-portioned. You saw that, so it's like 12 circular portions that come in this tray, so that if you just want to make 2 cookies for you and your wife at night, you can do that and keep the rest refrigerated or even put in the freezer. And that way it's really easy to like enjoy Sweet Lawrence as much as you want. You can make the whole all 12 cookies, you can make a couple at a time, you can throw it in your toaster oven, your air fryer, your regular oven. But just again, how easy is it for someone to bring it into their lives?
Mm.
And so I think, really trying to think about all of the touch points and have quality in all of them. I just think consumers are very savvy now, and they demand excellence,
Mm.
and they expect it. And honestly, I want to be proud of all aspects of the business, even customer service. If someone messages us and has a great experience, or maybe they're complaining about something, I want to make sure they are super taken care of, because it makes them even more of an advocate for the brand when they know that someone cares and has heard them out and is like helping fix the situation.
Was that where did that come from? I fully get it with food. What you're saying is extremely logical, more than software, for example. I mean, even with software, you want it to be high quality, but with food, you have no choice. I mean, it needs to be. Where did that come from? Was there some inspiration that told you this is what I'm going to do, or that's just innately who you are?
I think it's innately who I am, but it's also, I also saw how food, unlike, tech or software, you're eating it, you're giving it to your kids. Like, you don't want anyone to get sick. Our product is allergen free. So we also, we have people that just love cookies, and we have people that, have a serious gluten allergy or dairy allergy. So, they might email us a question about something because, they're really concerned about the safety and health of their kid or themselves. And so, I just realized with what we were doing, there was such a heightened level of health and safety that could affect the person.
Mm.
And so we have to be, the most trustworthy. We have to really make sure everything we do makes people feel safe and that they can count on us. And, that's really what the brand is. But also, I just would start to look at even how I looked at other companies. So,
Mm.
for instance, like I flew before I moved to LA, I was in New York City, and I would come to the West Coast a lot. And before I married my husband, we did long distance for 2.5 years, and he was in San Francisco. So we did New York, San Francisco for 2.5 years, and I was coming to LA a lot. And so, anyway, I lived on JetBlue. And I actually learned a lot from JetBlue, just in the way, like, why was I choosing that airline? Like, they had the best customer service, especially in the earlier days, but best customer service. I felt it was fun to fly them. I love their edgy, fun marketing. They felt different than the corporate airlines. And so they felt approachable, and they weren't just following kind of the same playbook, that everyone else was doing. And so I think I started to see that if I flew a different airlines and maybe had a bad experience, and then their customer service wasn't a good experience, I would be like, I don't need to fly them again, or that
Mm-hmm.
will not be my first choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started to see how, like, we all, myself included, like, we're all picky and we want a
Mm-hmm.
great experience. And so if you don't kind of have a great experience, there's other options out there.
Mm-hmm. Let me one more question on this topic, because I did interview a CEO of a software company who had a similar statement about his software and how close he is to every detail and everything in the product. And one of the things he said is that can sometimes rub people on his team the wrong way, not the wrong way, let's say, but it can be frustrating because he's in it, he's in the weeds. Like, have you ever had that experience where, because of the obsession that you have with quality, maybe the factory, maybe someone on the team, have you ever had a challenge of almost feeling like, am I going too far about my obsession? Or
Um, no, really. I would say, we have a great R&D team now. We have people, we have a whole operations team to help run the factories. Like, in the early days, I had to be at the factory every week. I watched over everything. I had to taste every run that was happening. Now we've set standards and protocols so that it's easier for someone else who's smarter than me and better at, to manage. But I will say, I think I have to always remember that like I am, no matter how great of a team we hire, I'm the one who will always be the most passionate.
Mm.
And I'm the one who just deeply cares the most. And I'm the one who's just been here the longest to kind of like know what flavor and expectation I have of the brand, and what I think consumers are expecting. And so I think I like now being like the sign off. Like yesterday, for instance, we're a totally remote company. So we're working on new products. And instead of us all being in the same room to taste things, our team sends out like a little
Oh.
sample to like the five of us, that are kind of on the committee to help approve new products. And I feel like I'm the most sensitive in terms of tasting, and that's a superpower, like I'm like, nope, number one and two aren't good enough. Like there's a slight aftertaste, like we have to tweak that. And I think that like those little things that might seem crazy obsessive are really the difference between you and like another brand potentially.
I love that lesson. That lesson I think is such an what you just said for founders is I love what you just said because no one's going to be as obsessed as you. No, it's I've had founders say to me, I don't understand why that person doesn't care as much as me. And I'm like, it's not theirs. It's not their baby. It's like getting a babysitter and saying like they're going to okay, they can love your child a lot, but they're never going to love it the way you do. And I think that is such actually acknowledging that and knowing that and not being frustrated by that and actually using that. That lesson I think is really important for people to hear.
Yeah, and I think like you have to love the obsession because first of all, I think most founders that love what they do, it's hard to turn it off. Like it is, it is who you are. It's like what you care about, especially if you've started something. Now it becomes your responsibility. So it's hard to be like, 10 years in, 10 years in being like, I don't care as much. Like just launch that product and have it be mediocre. Like what's the point? For me, it's also what's the point of launching something that's not A plus? Like
Mm.
again, if it's because we've done this before. We've launched things maybe a little too fast because some retailer like Whole Foods was like, "Oh, can we get it really soon?" And we just said yes and we made it happen versus, maybe spending another 6 months on it, which we would have normally done,
Mm. Mm.
if we kind of didn't get this, request from them. And so and then you have to tweak. Things maybe aren't perfect on that first run or two. And then over time you and then you learn that the packaging needs to get tweaked, that maybe those colors you picked weren't the right
Mm.
colors. Maybe you needed your call outs for that your selling points on your package need to be bigger, smaller, moved around. So there's just, there's a lot of learning and tweaking. Like we don't ever launch something and then be like, it's perfect, don't ever touch it again. We're always like, how do you keep even tiny things improving, tweaking, making things better, making things more special, making things smarter. Because again, A, that's what I'm proud of. B, that's what consumers deserve. And that's what makes Sweet Loren special. But it's also then the machine kind of works itself. Like those products sell themselves. People then rave about those products because they can taste the difference. They love it. There's nothing else on the market like it. And so again, you don't have to, there's no marketing BS that you need to put behind the
Yeah,
product,
yeah, I love that. So actually one of the things I've been following you for a long time. We've known each other for a very long time, and forever was a cookie
Yeah.
company. But now it's not. After we bought it on Fresh Direct, I went to the website and I said, it's even more stuff than I thought than I thought you had. But it took a long time, I think, between starting the company and the second product. Not you had flavors of cookies, but the second real different product. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how you think about becoming a multi-product company? Because that was a long time. I'm assuming you had opportunities to do that before, obviously.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, if you told me like when I was starting Sweet Lawrence as a cookie dough brand that, you'll be selling cookie dough for the next 9 years with no other products, I mean, I probably would have laughed because most people in the food industry that I know, after a couple years in, they immediately are thinking about what's next, not what's a new flavor. It's like what's a whole new SKU, what's a whole new category,
Mm.
what's a whole new item to get into. And at the end of the day, when you probably look at what their top SKUs are and what brings in the most revenue, there's always like a core business, and so you know, the supermarket industry is crazy in the sense that it's the opposite of software and technology where like you can update things all the time and launch new updates or new products like easily from your website, straight to the consumer. um, if you're selling a product into a supermarket, which is our main business, we're sold in over 25,000 supermarkets, so you can find us at, your local Whole Foods or Target or, Publix, Kroger. And we supermarkets meet with you once a year. So if you
Once a year?
once a year, maybe if you're lucky, twice a year that they'll like revisit your category. But if you have
Wow.
a new buyer for that section, exactly, and they're overwhelmed and they're just like, you know what, I'm not taking in any new customers this year. I'm too busy, too overwhelmed. You just have to be patient and wait a whole nother year until you get reviewed again. And if you don't get in again, you have to wait a whole nother year. And so it just the supermarket industry is slow. It's archaic. It's very old school. It does not move fast. I mean, and you can imagine it's because like, they set the shelves. And so it's very hard to like take things out when like
Mm,
you have things
mm,
all planned and you're counting every inch, that your
mm-hmm.
shelves take up. So all that to say is that it took 9 years just to stay focused in cookie dough and get to a very serious level where we were taken very seriously with all the retailers, and also to build a very profitable business. So my head was just down, being like, first of all, we have something special here. It's working. Why would I go and just dilute it or complicate it by launching into something totally new that's very complicated? Because it took a while to perfect cookie dough. It's not like it was perfect out of the gate. So I think, just having the patience with the industry of, meeting with these retailers once a year to be like, okay, like, oh, this is already a lot to bite off. And then I remember talking to Tony Hsieh, um, the CEO, founder of Zappos, who sadly is no longer with us. But he was a friend of mine. And I remember asking him, when do you think I should launch into other items? And he was like, not until you are the number one cookie dough brand. Like
Mm,
you are so
mm.
secure in your, flagship item that, you can launch into other things. And that was a really powerful statement, and it was actually really helpful, and it like helped me relax because you start a brand and all of a sudden when you get when you have something special going, you get pinged from everyone. You get asked to do new products, you get asked to do collabs or partnerships with other brands, and like there's a lot of shiny objects all around. And it really helped me just be like, a lot very complimented, excited to do all those things one day, but right now my head is down, like building Sweet Lawrence cookie dough to be number one. So we became the number one in natural cookie dough. We started actually outselling, the big guys and some major retailers, and got to a place where it was like, okay, I really feel secure in our positioning, and I kind of see how big cookie dough can get. And, I'm not taking my eye off the prize of cookie dough, but like I want to not just be a cookie dough brand. I want to be able to, solve more problems for our fans and consumers, and show that we can be just a better for you food company, a better for you snacking and baking company. There's a lot more we could grow into. And it just became evident, like year over year, retailers would say, can you launch this? Can you launch this? And when we would hear requests from both supermarkets and our customers and fans, like, can you launch into puff pastry? Can you launch into pizza dough? Can you launch into snacks or something for breakfast? Like, the demand is there. Why not solve it? I would say the most exciting thing is, a couple weeks ago, we just launched into thin crust pizza dough and refrigerated puff pastry dough. Again, all of our cookie dough and puff pastry dough and pizza dough are sold in the refrigerated dough section. And so we're just growing within our same section. That consumer's already walking to the
Mm, mm.
cookie dough aisle. They're already buying our cookie dough. Well, they want other products too, and it's very, very hard to bake gluten-free and dairy-free and allergen-free and have it just taste super delicious. But B, like, not taste gluten-free or dairy-free or be astronomically expensive. So with Sweet Lawrence, we try to do all those things, make it accessibly priced, make it so delicious you would never know it's gluten-free, dairy-free, and make it so easy to use. So, this puff pastry and pizza dough, they both come refrigerated, rolled. You just unroll them, and you can throw them in your oven, and in 10 minutes you have such a great product. So I think, but also no one realizes the years that those took to innovate.
That's what I
So
wanted to ask you. How long does it take?
7 years. And that's why they're the first to market of its kind. There's never before been a refrigerated gluten-free, dairy-free puff pastry dough. There's never before been a rolled out thin crust gluten-free.
So you've been doing R&D on those things.
We've been doing R&D on 10 different innovations that we've wanted to move into. But I know how complicated it is, and to find the right factory, to create the right recipe, to create the right shelf life. We didn't want to launch into like cans of dough, which is what the big guys have done forever. It's not recyclable. It's very clunky. It's really just not like a modern way to package something. And so we've been working with a factory to reinvent that type of packaging. And so instead of launching in a can, we've now launched in this it's in a thin film inside a cardboard carton. And that way, and we get the shelf life we want. It's taken years, honestly, to develop this, to test it. We've done focus groups on the side. And I don't think people realize how hard it is. And that's why it is a first to market. That's why I don't think we have competition, because I don't think anyone else could create these products. Again, it's because I'm so obsessive. It's because I'm so passionate. It's because our team is so committed to continue to grow the Sweet Lawrence brand and better for you products that, we've had the patience to wait this long. And while we've been waiting and working on this, we've just been growing cookie dough. And again, cookie dough hasn't stayed the same. We've been always tweaking and improving it.
Mm-hmm.
So, our core flavors have changed over time to make sure that the 5 flavors that we have on the shelf are the highest moving, most requested flavors. 2 years ago, we launched a less sugar chocolate chunk cookie dough. That's very revolutionary for the category. There's no sugar replacement in there, no sugar substitute, no monk fruit or stevia or anything kind of weird. It's just cane sugar, non-GMO vegan cane sugar, but as little as possible. So, that became very incremental to our business, because now people that are really counting their grams of sugar or looking for something less sweet finally have a cookie dough for them. They've never had that option before. We launched into seasonal for the first time last year, pumpkin spice, gingerbread, chocolate mint, got huge end caps at Target and major retailers. That was a major exciting business. We're doing that again this year. We'll always do that now. Now we're doing cool partnerships and collabs. So anyway, there's still, we could double or triple the size of our cookie dough business still.
I think that the new products, you didn't raise money. You didn't really raise any big, you had maybe some family, some friends, but you never really raised money. Do you think that if you had raised money, you would have done this sooner?
Really don't. Again, I wasn't ever opposed to raising money if we needed to, but I've never wanted to own my own factory. At least not now. We've been able to find amazing factory partners where, we're obviously the brand and sales and marketing and, know what products we want. But, we want to work with the best top, manufacturers in the world. And so, I scoured, North America, and Europe to figure out who could produce this, who is interested in doing this. Is there anyone who has the knowledge? And really there was no one. So except for one factory, and about 7 years ago, started to build a relationship with them and work on this. And so, sure, maybe throwing more money would have helped it a little faster, but I don't think so. We were going honestly as fast as we could. There was so much put behind it between us and this factory. So I would say, there's 2 things that I think are going to grow Sweet Lawrence. One, it's innovation, continuing to grow into new products that people want. But then there's also just brand awareness. Our brand awareness is quite low. We have this amazing raving fan base, but not we're not a brand name yet. Not everyone's heard of us. And so I do think if I raised a ton of money and did really big, marketing Super Bowl ads or whatever, maybe paying celebrities or whatever it is to like really try to get our name out there, we could have grown brand awareness faster, which could have grown the business. But then I just think about what I would have had to give up. I'm really proud of building this profitable, sustainable business and not being beholden to some, VC or private equity company.
Well, I think that's the I think you would have been forced to do what you're doing today sooner.
Right.
That's my opinion. You've been able to
Right.
build it at the right pace, with the right right quality and culture, and let's just say, and the right economics, right? I mean,
Yeah.
one thing when you talk about brand, you are the brand. I mean, the name is you. You are the brand. Um, was it comfortable for you from day one to be the brand? Like, you're on TV and you're doing all this stuff, and like, for myself, one time I was on TV ever, and I was like, couldn't even handle it. I like prepared myself for like 6 months to get on the show. Anyway, point is, like, you're doing it. You seem to be doing a lot of it. You're good at it. Did it come naturally to you, or has it been something you worked on? Did you get somebody to help you with that?
I mean, I think I could be way even better. I've done a little coaching. I haven't like gone deep into it. I would say that like, when I was starting to come up with the name for Sweet Loren's, it originally didn't have my name in it. It was more about like better for you baking and like smart cookie and all these ideas. And I would test them on people and they wouldn't resonate. And when we came up with Sweet Loren's and just started to test with people, it immediately resonated. People were like, "Oh, I think I've heard of that before. It sounds familiar. Oh, like I love your story. Your story is so inspiring. Like you have to put it on the back of your package. Like you have to own it." And then when I really started to study the food industry and get more involved in it, realized how few food brands are actually owned by female entrepreneurs. I mean, how few businesses in general, but food. I mean, still to this day, 80% of consumers in supermarkets are women. Like we're still the major buyers and controllers of
Mm.
most of the food that enters our homes. And I just felt like that's crazy that most of the food, packaged food in supermarkets is owned by huge conglomerates, huge global organizations. Um, you know, where's the female that can market to me that knows exactly what I want,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know? And so I actually felt like, wait a minute, like this could be this could be my strength. This could be a way to break through that. Like we know how to design packaging that speaks to the modern female that, and men too, of course, but, just thinking like, who is our target audience? Who is in most of these supermarkets? Who is shopping in Target or Publix or Kroger for us most of the time? And so how do we speak to that, like, modern mom with kids, or guy who has a sweet tooth but wants to eat a little healthier, or and I think that so being a real person, I think whether I felt comfortable with it or not in the early days, I just realized it could be my superpower, and then and it felt most authentic to me. Like it is my story. I am, whether I like it or not, I am the brand. Like it's my story, it's my passion, it's the way I see the world. I've baked so much with these natural ingredients that how many hours does it take to become an expert in something? They
A
say like
thousand, like 10,000. I don't know.
10,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like, if I've done 100,000, so it's like it's in my blood, it's just like it's the way I look at the world. It's what I enjoy doing. It's, the superpower I've like spent a lot of time, working on. And so I just think, it felt authentic. And then I really just followed kind of people's response and people, when I first got on like the Today Show, for instance, or like Rachel Ray, I realized like I lit up when I got on TV or got interviewed. Like I like connecting with people and, and showing the authentic story and the vision behind the brand. I like, I like connecting with people. I think that's what it comes down to. So
Yeah,
I kind of have fun with it.
that's great. So, I mean, you talk about you yourself did the baking. You were in the early days, and kind of as you were testing and everything, and that's a passion of yours. The business piece, I mean, this is your first company, obviously, and how did you learn the business side of all of this? Did you get a mentor, a coach, a co-founder? Like, how did you do the business side?
Yeah, when I started, I definitely had no co-founder. It was very lonely and it was so hard. It was like, Loren, be the face of the brand. Oh, and create all the products and run to the factory and figure out how to manage production and then manage your P&L and then, manage people and hiring people and, all of their, goals. And it was too much for anyone. And so I think I got to a point where, well, first of all, in the earliest days, I think mentors are everything. I'm so passionate about mentorship. And so I wrote a business plan for Sweet Lawrence in the early days. And I took a business writing course and it was my first foray into business. I've always been interested in business. But I didn't, I didn't get my MBA. I was 26 years old. I was 22 when I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which right after graduating college, and that is what made me start Sweet Lawrence. So 22 years old, right after graduating USD, majoring in communications, I, had to start chemotherapy and I went back to New York City and my life was just turned upside down. And it took me, thankfully I was cured, but it took me like, I'd say 5-6 years to really recover from it, like really get back to myself, really feel like, not scared that the cancer was going to come back, like all those things. And over that time is when I just had been baking for so long, feeding myself just healthier versions of my favorite foods. And so I think like I didn't have time to kind of get my MBA because I was just, going through, real life things. And then I realized that like just jumping in, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not employable. I'm not excited to work for anyone else. I started to really get to know myself, to know that about me. So 26, 27 is when I started Sweet Lawrence. And I think, I just jumped in head first and it took off from the day that I launched it. And so I just went from an idea to like working 7 days a week. And the thing is, I loved it. Like I love designing packaging and like understanding the psychology of consumers. I loved figuring out how to build a team. I loved selling and meeting with, Whole Foods and major retailers. But then, I think it got to a point where I was like, this is crazy. All of these things are not my strength. What are my strengths are product, being the face of the brand, being the passion and vision, really understanding the consumer. How do I outsource everything else? And I never had a co-founder, so like that wasn't going to work. And so in the early days, I brought on a mentor named Daniela, who had no experience in the food industry, but she was a female entrepreneur. And honestly, the best thing she did was just set up a weekly meeting with me to really give me
Mm.
time. So every Friday, I would go to her house. She lived really close to where I lived, so it was easy. I went to her house for 2 hours and we just talked through how to hit goals for the next week and what our goals for the year were. And it was just so overwhelming to me that to have someone just sit down with me and like, believe in me and give me the, kind of support I needed to like be vulnerable, whether it was a personal thing I was going through or a business thing. I could just say, I'm genuinely scared about this, or this is what I'm nervous about. Or, I had roommates at the time and I was like, I can't live with roommates anymore. I would like need to live alone. And like, she just helped me like get my house in order, get everything in order that was very overwhelming as a first time founder and just as a young entrepreneur. After I was with her for like 2 years, she kind of said it herself, but she was just like, I kind of have given you everything I can, like you need to find that next mentor who, now can help you really build this multi-million-dollar business. And so I raised from friends and family and an angel investor, in the early days of Sweet Lawrence. And that angel investor kind of said the same thing. He was like, I believe in you. I want to mentor you. I want to help grow you into a top CEO. Let's meet every Thursday for 2 hours. And so, I started doing that and that was 7 years ago. And I still meet with him, every week and we talk all the time. And, just again, having someone that's got your back it's unbelievable when one person that you respect believes in you. It's unbelievable the effect it can have. And so it just makes me feel like we'll get through anything, gives you an extra confidence. It's fun because you're not alone. You have someone to like talk, talk things
Hmm.
through. So mentorship has really, really helped me. And then obviously hiring a super, super experienced team has changed everything. So I had my first daughter during COVID and I didn't have a real number two in the business. And that was really stressful for not just me, but the team. Like I barely took maternity leave because I was so scared of like the issues coming up in the company,
Hmm.
knowing no one being there to solve it. And it scared my team too because they didn't want to bug me. But at the same time, like they weren't happy with the way things were, running in the company. And so when I knew we were going to have a second kid, I hired a president. And so I hired this guy named Doug and went through a recruiter, interviewed a lot of people. And that has been unbelievably game changing. Like, Doug has been the most amazing partner to me. He helps run the day to day of the business. We talk about everything strategy wise, we align on everything. So I'm never like left in the dark. I can still make all the major decisions I want to, but I trust him. He has taken so much off my plate to make me be able to focus on the things that I can do really well in the company, but also have time to be a mom and like have space in my life where I'm not just working all the time. Um, that's been the best
That's
gift. And
the both of those are really important. The mentorship, I think, the one theme I think I've heard now in every interview I've done has been in one way, shape, or form having that person who can be your person as a who's usually a step or two past where you are or have been, but they're
Mhm.
kind of the accountability partner, but kind of the therapist,
Mhm.
but kind of the coach. It's like it's that person who's there for you. And when you talk about this and those two people, I think that sounds like they serve different roles at different stages, but that there's a person who has the understanding, the context on the business, the context on you. And I really think it's such a lonely job. Even if you do have a co-founder, it's still such a lonely job being the CEO that having that person is you people probably don't appreciate how much of an impact it has.
Yeah. It's so game changer. It's unbelievable because other people in your life, whether it's your friends, my sister, even, I met my now husband, years after I started my business. He doesn't know the intricacies of the business and he's his own business. Like he doesn't want to get like super bogged down, even though I know he believes in me and wants to support me emotionally. Like, it's kind of nice to have that separation. And, my sister, who I could tell anything to, she doesn't know my business inside and out. So, I just also realized like, you can't throw this kind of thing on your family,
Yes.
or your best friends. Like you really need someone who like understands the business and can help. It is like a therapist. Like they can like let you offload and they understand the years of the business to like my mentor, he's like the one person, right, that's been with me for over 7 years that
Hmm.
really understands all the ins and outs and the scary things that have happened or like the huge things that have happened or who do you have those like really personal conversations with. And um yeah, it's taught me a lot. And,
Yeah.
I hope to be able to mentor other
I was just
people.
gonna say that. I was just gonna say you're probably gonna now do that for
Yeah.
some set of people. um,
Yeah. I think
uh,
it's fun. And I think I see how incredibly important it can be.
Yeah. So you talk about hardships and having someone to talk through hardships with. What is the biggest challenge you've ever faced at Sweet Lawrence, and how did you deal with that?
During COVID, I mean, like, thank God Sweet Lawrence has done really well these last, several years. Like we've had, 40-50% growth rate. We've you know, during COVID, we were thankfully a business that people like, bought
I
off the
assume you
shelf.
exploded during
Yeah,
during COVID.
we did because, people were relying on the food in supermarkets and people were home with their kids and want to entertain their kids and people wanted healthier options. And, so we checked off all those boxes, but there was a point, so between COVID, um, we went remote during COVID and stayed remote. So that was another challenge. We had to raise our price because, cost of goods went up so dramatically. Just inflation in general. I mean, we've had so many crazy big things happen over the last couple of years, and Sweet Lawrence has figured out how to ride it. But one of the scariest things that happened was um, there was a major shortage of oat flour. We use a lot of oat flour, and during COVID, there was a major shortage, and or kind of right after COVID, I mean, COVID was still happening, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like the height of it. Just supply chain issues were happening, um, and so we had to get a new supplier from overseas, and you know, normally we wouldn't move fast with a new supplier. We would do a ton of checking, and
Mm.
they gave us false paperwork, they gave us a false sample, and then when they actually sent over product, they sent over, our product is gluten free, so everything we do has to be really clean and safe. And they sent over some flour that was contaminated and had some gluten in it, and it was spotty. Like not all of it had gluten, but parts of it, to the point where like we had to just make that gut, answer of just no, we're not using any of it, even though there was millions of pounds bought, we're not using any of it, returning it, throwing away product. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars we threw away, just to
Holy
honestly just to
shit.
protect the brand and to make sure no one got sick. And thankfully no one got sick, and there wasn't any issues. But you have to make decisions like that where you're just, you know, what are you going to do? To me, again, quality is everything, right? Like for
Wow.
people to be able to rely and trust Sweet Lawrence is everything. So it was the right move for us, but like it still hurts when I think about, you know, like the hundreds of thousands of dollars that were thrown away.
And in any business, the suppliers that you work with, the partners, it's everyone is relying on someone else in some way, shape, or form. But in your business, back to your point of quality, it's like you have to control the whole vertical, like the everyone who's involved. And wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to transition to your story, a little bit more personal story. But before that, with Sweet Lawrence, what are you most excited for the future?
I am so excited for some new products we're launching. In January, we're going to be launching a very
Even more?
cool, even more. It's going to blow your mind. So we're working on really cool other things that are very hard to create. It's the only reason it's taking time. Otherwise, I would have launched them all, last year. But so new products that we're working on, partnerships and collabs with some really cool companies, one of which is going to launch in January, and continuing to grow brand awareness too. I think like that's what I'm most excited about as well as, I think our products are really life changing, and we just want more people to try them.
So let's talk about you. So where are you from originally?
So I'm from New York City, Upper West Side, 87th and Broadway, and grew up there, went to high school with
Yeah.
you, um, and then only applied to schools on the West Coast. So like I just knew I loved New York City. Everyone I knew was on the East Coast, and I just wanted something different.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to USC for college, which has become very popular now for a lot of East Coast kids. But I remember when I went, like no one knew USC. They thought it was like South Carolina. So I went there during like the Reggie Bush, like just big football
Oh
years,
yeah.
and it was really fun. And I've always been attracted to kind of the lifestyle out here, the nature, the sunshine, the produce, the hiking. It's just, I'm a New Yorker at heart, but like my lifestyle choice is kind of that West Coast vibe.
So you mentioned before you were not like you didn't I don't think you grew up saying I'm going to be the CEO of a company, right?
No, I didn't grow up that way, but I will say like my mom would always find me like when I was 10 years old, for my birthday, I asked for something to put on my desk to help organize like my pencils and notebooks and stuff like that. So like I and my mom was an entrepreneur and my mom owned a business. So I think whether it's innate in me, and I also, had her as a role model. Like, I got excited about being in charge. I got excited about, I think that's where I felt most comfortable, or things organized and in charge. And I don't know, so whether that's innate or my mom, inspired part of it, I think it's something that I always had in me, but I didn't know I wanted to start my own business. I became a yoga instructor right before college. And so I was always interested in health and wellness. Um, and then I worked at Levain Bakery,
Oh, I
which
didn't know that part. I didn't know
uh,
that part.
I'm sure you know.
Mm,
So their original location was on 74th, right
yeah.
off Amsterdam, and that was our neighborhood bakery. And so we and my family had such a big, we loved food. I mean, we were New Yorkers, loved good food, and had a big sweet tooth. And so, we always had their stuff. And I just wanted to get a job to make money. When I was like home from college, for part of the summer, or vacation when I was home, whenever it was. And there was something that drew me to Levin. Like, I love their quality. I love their customer service. The two women who owned it and started it, I became really close with, and I learned a lot from them. Like, they built a brand. They built a great brand, and they had great customer service, and they stood for quality, and they took care of people. And so I learned a lot from that. But what I really learned too was like, oh my God, they made breads and muffins and brioche and all these things. But what people lined around the block for were their huge warm cookies. And so in the back of my head, like, it was always very interesting that, like, I just couldn't believe the excitement and joy that warm cookies could give people. And so I think, like, I did, and I also saw them dedicate their lives to having a bakery. They didn't have children, they weren't married, and they were at this bakery like almost 7 days a week. It was hard to go on vacation, and I always would say to them, guys, you gotta, get out, and you deserve a break. But I saw how hard it was having a retail location that was open,
Mm,
7 days a week, and how hard that was. And I think all of that, it got me interested in CPG, like in consumer packaged goods, like how to create a product that could be sold in supermarkets everywhere,
mm,
versus
mm.
having like a standalone, bakery. Because I wanted the whole, I think what really got me excited about being an entrepreneur was freedom, like freedom and, impact I could have.
Mm. So you talk a lot about, I mean, we all know anyone who's been entrepreneur, founder, it is all encompassing. It's your whole life that you're putting into it. Um, what is it deep down that keeps you going and that motivates you? I mean, like really at your core.
I think at my core, so I don't have food allergies. So, but at my core, I know what it's like to um, not feel like the food around me is taking care of me, that it's just meant for kind of taste and enjoyment versus actually taking care of me. And it's because
Mm,
I got sick that and had cancer that even made me think that way, that instead of just eating a cookie because the cookie's delicious, I got really sensitive to, like, how do I feel after I eat that cookie? Like, do I actually feel good? Like, my body is just really important to me, and health is really important to me, but I don't want to have to compromise on taste, or experiences. I want to be able to eat everything. I just want to eat food that actually, fuels me, and isn't so hard to digest and is less
mm,
inflammatory. And so I think I really just resonated with, I that's just who I am always. And so, I look at, there are very few brands that I look at them and go, oh my God, you have figured out how to make taste amazing and really take care of me. And so I'm excited to buy you as a product and eat you every day, or feed my kids your product.
mm,
So I think, at my core, I really resonate with anyone who just wants to eat clean, anyone who really is like driven to just have it all in life, feel good and have great experiences and great taste. And then, anyone who has a food allergy, or certain lifestyle, and they're just like, God, it's so hard to find food that, it's easy to eat, and, takes care of me. So I think at my core, it's really, you eat multiple times a day. Like, it's an issue that I see every day, all the time. And so I'm passionate about that because I just so deeply resonate with anyone that doesn't feel like, that's frustrated with food, or most packaged food that's out there. And I think also I'm passionate about, being a female and figuring out how to grow a really big company and really compete in this space because it's so not the norm. And
Mm.
so it's exhausting, but at the same time, it's what makes us stand out. And it actually pushes me to say, like, God, how much bigger can we get? How much more impact can we have? Um, like I want to show that's possible to be.
Do you think you could see yourself running this company for the rest of your life, the rest of your career?
It's interesting because it's like I love it. I really do. And so I'm not like, oh God, like I have 2 more years in me and then I got to get out of here. It's like I truly love this. And I have such an innovation pipeline in my brain of like where we could grow into so many more things that I just see such opportunity. And honestly, the bigger our customer base gets, the more passionate I get about it because the more
Mm.
we have people saying, you've changed our lives, like, oh my God, can you create X, Y, and Z, And the more people we employ and the culture we build, like I think we're building something really special. And so you think about like, man, like don't give up now. Like we could double in size, we could triple
Mm.
in size. Like think about what we could do. So I think like I'm keen to keep growing this until, it's not fun anymore, I think there's still a lot of things I want to do. And, my husband says to me all the time, like, Lauren, you're an entrepreneur. You can create a new business tomorrow. And it's like, sure, I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could take time off and another good idea would come to me. But right now, I'm still obsessed with Sweet Loren's.
I mean, one of those messages from customers, for myself, anytime I would get a message from a customer that was somehow we help them, this product, it's not, it's not food, software, probably less important in some cases, but those messages, that one message could like give me energy for 2 months, um,
100%. That
it's,
every day we get messages. I get them personally or we get them sent to Sweet Lawrence, and they are game changer. Like every Friday, we have our customer service team send out like a top picks to everyone on the team so that everyone can kind of see a couple quotes because of course customer service sees this all the time, but you in marketing or operations or finance might not see the impact that we're having every day. And so I love that we send it out to everyone because I want everyone to be like, yes, we are not just selling another product. Like we are actually changing people's lives. We are really making
yeah,
better food accessible to everyone, being sold in all major supermarkets, really competing with the big guys and big processed food. And it totally lights me up. It's honestly the fuel that keeps me
yeah.
going. And so I got invited to a couple weddings of just fans. I've never met
Oh,
them. They
really?
sent their wedding invitation to me, and then one was cutest couple named their daughter Loren last year, spelled my way, so it's
Oh my God.
yeah, it definitely feels fun.
Um, all right. Last question for you. If you could go back, knowing everything you know today, all the experience you've had over these 10 years, and you go back and give yourself advice at the very beginning when you were starting Sweet Lawrence, knowing what you know today, what would that advice be?
I think it would be uh, don't play small. Like, really give yourself permission, even as a young founder or first time founder, to dream big. It took me a while to feel comfortable and confident to allow myself to dream big. And I deserved that from the very beginning. So really like let yourself dream big. You deserve it as long as you have the passion and energy and focus to go after something, that big. And also it's all about the team. Like I would realize your strengths and what you're passionate about very quickly and outsource the rest as soon as possible and really make sure whether it's a recruiter, even if it's expensive, but just leaning on a recruiter or whoever can really help you get the right people on board as fast as possible. Because people are the hardest things to find. But they're the gateway to growing, to figuring out the right marketing, the right operations, the right, tighter finance, like whatever it is, you know, and hiring a president. I should have hired a president 5 years ago. I say this all the time to Doug, but at the same time, I probably couldn't have attracted, depth, until the business was at a certain level. So, you got to kind of, not be so hard on yourself as well. But team is everything, dreaming big. And then, I would say bringing on a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they've been in your industry, I do think it's more helpful, that can really help you finesse a business plan over the next, and I like doing like 3-year increment business plans, but like a business plan so that like you are clear on what success looks like, you have really thought out your strategy, and that you can just kind of every day focus on what matters versus getting distracted by shiny objects or I think it took me the first couple years, like I think it was early to market too, which was hard because you're early to market. Not everyone understands what you're doing. Now everyone understands what we're doing. And I'm like, but yeah, we've been here for 10 years, people, waiting for you to catch up. But I think those are the big things to me is making sure, like I think we could have moved faster with and also access to data. Again, I scrappy at the beginning, I didn't have money, but getting access to data so that you can really build a very smart business plan that's rooted in data, and you can really understand why are you going for certain categories? How big are they? What percentage of the market can you bring? Are you incremental to the category? When would you launch into new products? Like really setting up a business plan that really makes sense. And I think it keeps you and everyone on the team very focused and ensures success.
Love it. If people want to connect with you, how should they do that? And if people want to get Sweet Loren's, how should they do that?
So if you want to try Sweet Loren's refrigerated cookie dough or a new puff pastry or pizza dough, we also have breakfast biscuits that are shelf stable and crunchy. Go to sweetlorens.com, sweet LORENS, and throw your zip code in the store locator, and it just will show you what stores near you sell what products. You can always order all of our products online at sweetlorens.com as well and have them shipped to your door. You can try our breakfast biscuits that are like great for breakfast, or like a crunchy biscuit on Amazon. So you can check out Sweet Loren's breakfast biscuits there. And then I am Loren B. Castle, Loren B. Castle on Instagram. So you can follow me. You can always shoot the team any questions you have at hello@sweetlorens.com. And just want to stay in touch and happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Awesome. Loren, thank you for doing this. I know you're extremely busy, and I really, really appreciate you making the time. And like I said, I've been watching you from afar for a number of years, growing this business, and it's amazing to see what you've built.
Oh, that's really awesome. I'm so glad to connect with you after how long has it been? I mean,
15 years?
No, more.
20 years? 30 years?
More.
I don't know. 30
Yeah,
years.
25.
20 years.
Whatever. We've known each other somewhere around 25 years. So
Yeah.
super cool to reconnect with you, and just super impressed with what you've built too. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you. And for those of you listening, I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. And, we learned a lot. I've had a lot of tech CEOs on here, but this is the first food CEO. So hopefully everyone enjoyed. And if you did, I'd love it if you shared this with your networks. Thank you so much, and see you next time for another episode of Not Another CEO Podcast. That's a wrap for this week's episode of Not Another CEO Podcast. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, please visit notanotherceopodcast.com. We'll see you next week.